this video is to take you through making 4 of our mini books, and this is from set 2, which is the pop-up box card or book, the rather spectacular explosion book, the cascading exploding book, which has, wow, just loads of different areas for you to decorate. And last but not least, the twist out, a bit harder to do holding up in the air, but you just take the opposite corners and it has like a camera shutter motion. So that's a nice one. So through this section of video, I'll take you through how to make all 4 of those books. So this set of templates, we have 4 very different sorts of books. We have the twist out. Now this is a little bit mind blowing because as you pull it, pull the opposite corners and it will actually twist out, almost like the shutter of a camera. Really nice, that one. Fabulous on a card. But again, great to make a whole mini book or as a section within a journal page. So that's the twist out. Then we have the rather understated explosion, and look at this. This is beautiful. It really got fabulous movement, lots of areas to decorate, very clever fold, and it is a fabulous one to do as a book that folds right out to give you a real statement. Great one with your double-sided papers, that one. The next one, the pop-up box. So it just looks like a little box, but as you pull, the little book comes out, flops open, and you've got the really nice dimensional book to look at. And it's double-sided, that one, because it's a sort of a book where you start in the middle because you come this way or you go away from you. So that's a little bit more fun and unusual for a book. The final one, the exploding cascade. So it looks like a normal exploding box. You take the lid off and then you have this beautiful cascade that all interlocks to each other and gives you lots of spaces to decorate. Really nice. And then when you close it up, you just alternate, a bit like a multi-storey car park. I find with this one a lighter weight paper gives it more of a flow when you open it. This is quite thick card, so it was a bit more robust. But actually when you're making it, if you want it to really cascade down, a lighter weight paper makes it flop and has a bit of an index card feel to it, that one. Okay, so let's show you how they go together. Let's start with the twist out one. So that's this one. Okay. Now again, I'm just going to show you the mechanism. You can do a cover using again the same cover template, and then you would do 2. But this one uses 6x6 paper, which so you can draw around and cut out, or if you happen to have some 6x6 pads, it's perfect. You need to sort of trust yourself with this one because you're gonna want to, the paper's gonna want to go in a particular way, and you're gonna have to try and control it. So the main thing is to score your lines really well. Okay, and also then it's a case of folding those lines, but obviously unlike normal where a line would go right across, this doesn't, so it's a case of sort of pinching and getting into corners so that you can ease the paper in a minute. So what I would suggest is actually sort of fold them as much as you can each way, just to allow you to stretch those fibres and allow the paper to go where it doesn't want to go. So sort of pinch it. It will all come together as you start. I mean, you can see it's starting to want to pull itself about. even as I'm just doing that. I do think this one benefits from being out of a lighter weight paper rather than a card. It just makes it a little bit easier because you are really sort of forcing the paper to bend in ways that it doesn't want to. I mean, we're going from there and then we're going up at an angle. That paper doesn't like doing stuff like that, so we're having to train it. So the thinner the paper, the more chance you have of being able to do that. And then it's just a case of the 4 points that come off the square in the middle, have them as mountain folds, and then your other ones are as valley folds, and then it will just, as you sort of push it and ease it, it does feel like it's fighting you for a while. Just ease it in. It's really funny because you think it's not working, it's not going to go, it's not going to go, it's not going to go, but it does. Just let it do its thing. So if you look, because you think, how is that going to be that? If you pull this open, so you can see that those start to push it in. Once one corner goes, it's a lot easier. And you kind of have to be a little bit rough with it, which again is sort of counterintuitive. See, there we go. It's as soon as you start going a little bit rough with it. Hang on, where's... Feed it in. And if you find that it's not wanting to fold where you've scored the line, you have to guide it with your finger. Just the first couple of times, just while you're training that paper to go down. So there we go. Bring that one in. Bring that one in. You can't rush this one because it is trying to fight you. Just ease it down. It really does try and fight you. First few times I did this without a template, it was like, no, it just wasn't going to. Just get the corners, pinch them in. And also, it's kind of just easing it. It's very tempting to sort of squish it all at this point, but just make sure all the little points where they meet at funny angles like here, just make sure that as you're easing this down this first time, that you're getting those corners nice and crisp. And say, as tempting as it is to just sort of ham-fisted get it down, and just ease it and there, bring it down nice and gently, and there you've got your mechanism. So I know that looks a little bit complicated, but it's just a case of taking your time. And once you start seeing the movement going, just making sure that these points here are as crisp as you can make them, and then that allows that to come down and form the little square that will then pull out. Once you've done it that first time, just sit and do that a few times and it will flow really smoothly. But it's just easing that paper, and it's only because you're asking paper to do things that it doesn't want to. You're asking it to suddenly change direction. So it's all about making sure that that first time you get it down, you get your points nice and creased well, and then away you go. So that is by far the most complicated one. Okay, and it's just take your time, be a little forceful, but not, you know, don't be tempted to rush it. Okay, so that's the twist out. Explosion. Again, this is a nice little one that fits on a 6x6. And unlike the one we've just done, this one is a little bit easier because your main folds go right across your paper, which makes life always a little bit easier. Okay. So, I don't know know why I use pattern paper, which makes it hard for me to see. So you've got your diagonals and your straight. And again, this one is a little bit easier to be able to fold forwards and backwards. I think that's the hardest thing with the twist out, is that you can't easily do that motion. You can't do the both sides. And then it's just a case, did I not score those? Right, I need to just score my corners. And this is what gives it the extra layer of, I think I did score them. I did. It's just because it's got lines. So again, we're just going to pinch those score lines we've just done, pull that corner in. So pinch the score line, push the corner in. You can see you're starting to get your explosion coming. That's that side done. So push, pinch those corners in, push, pinch the corner in. Push it down, squash, score all your lines, and there is your exploding mechanism. If you are wanting to do maybe a photograph or something, remember that these templates are see-through enough that you can plot where things go. So just remember, where there's a score line, like across there, that's where it's going to have to move. So, you know, if you want, you've got two panels that have no score line across, so that's where you probably want your most detail. But they just look fabulous in nice bright papers. So that is your explosion. As I say, in bright papers, it looks amazing, doesn't it? Okay, next, shall we do the pop-up box? Okay, so for this, we need the box and the bit that's going to pop out of it. So the box is nice and easy. Just score the lines again. This you probably want to do out of a sturdy-ish card. And then it's just a case of folding it up into a box. You've got plenty of tabs for attaching. Glue on each of your tabs. This tab here, this big one that I'm doing at the moment, make sure that goes down nice and flat inside, because that can catch on the book as it's coming out, because that's your one that gives the bottom strength. So it comes a little way up. It's then just a case of folding your box up. Put your fingers in, squidge it all together, and there you've got your box. So see, that flap there needs to be nicely glued down so that when we put the book in and out, it's not going to impede it. Okay, so that's your box done. That can go to one side. Now, for this, again, you want to do multiple pages, and you want an odd number of pages. I'm only going to do 2 just to show you, because obviously you just make multiples of them. But it's pop the template on, mark these 2 lines, and score the others. Okay. And you're going to do that on all the pages of your book. And I say an odd number is best because we want a central one to come up. So we want an even number either side. That's harder to say than it should have been. Okay, so mark those lines, score those lines, and on your middle one, you want to mark the hole. Okay, so if you're not confident cutting with a knife, fold along that central line and then just cut like that, and then it's just a case of popping that part forward, and that gives you your little pop-up that will look nice. If you are confident doing it with a knife, that's absolutely fine too. It's personal choice, but it does work with scissors as well. So if you're wanting to do these with children, it is a you know, an option that they can actually do all the cutting out as well. And once you've done all of those, you're just going to join them back to back so that they'll fold up flat to fit into your box. A little bit of ribbon on that middle one so that when you pull it out, it's going to flop down. Okay, nice and simple. When decorating it, remember this is the starting point, so you're going to go one way and then the other. It just means that you're reading it in a slightly different way. So that's your pop-up box card. We're cooking on gas. Right, last but not least, this one. Now, this has a couple of rules to abide by that we've calculated for you so that it works, and it's all to do with the mechanism here and measuring it so that everything alternates together to stack. I was liking it to a multi-storey car park. Okay. Otherwise, if we didn't do that, when you closed it up, all the pages would be in the same place and they would just butt against each other. Right, so you need to do a lid. Okay, and it's just, as with all the templates, it's just a case of cutting, drawing around, cutting out, scoring, folding up, gluing if necessary. So this one, it's just going to be glue the tabs to form the corners. I always tend to stick pegs on those corners just so that they're going to hold, because they're actually going to have to hold those sides together. So you do want this lid to be fairly sturdy, because that's actually going to hold those sides up. So just a bit of glue in the corners. There you go. So then I would, I'd stick a little clip or a peg on there just while the glue dries. The actual box is made in a cheating way. You cut 2 of this template, and the reason we do it this way is it's giving the base of your box a little bit of extra weight, and also because we want the box to collapse open, we don't need to tab the sides. So all we do is we cut and fold 2 of those, and then to create the box you put glue on one panel, offset that to create a cross, and there you've got your box that the lid will go onto. Simple. Right, when you get your template for doing the mechanism at the side, you will notice that one side is fatter than the other. That is how it should be. So basically what you need to do is you want to do 5 of these with the thin bit at the top. I'm just going to do 2 to show you, and then you're going to do 5 with the thin bit at the bottom, and I tend to work methodically. So take that, turn it around and do the next batch. Okay, it's fairly obvious once you've done them. Then it's just a case of pinching those, folding those out flat. So you'll see that there we've got a thin one and a fat one. We're going to glue this together to give it a little bit of strength. I'm going to put that to one side. And we do the same with the ones. And so I would always do 5, put 5 one side and the other 5 the other side. So I'm not going to muddle them up. Okay, a bit of glue on that. And then bring your box back in. So in order for this to fold up and everything fall into place, you want to start on one side and take the ones with the fat bit first and then the thin bit. Just make sure you can see this. Line the fat bit up with the bottom of the box and then have the thin bit. And you carry on. Fat bit, thin bit, fat bit, thin bit, fat bit, thin bit, till you fill the side of your box. Okay, on the other side, you might have guessed it, we're going to go the other way round. We're going to go thin bit first, then fat bit. Thin bit, fat bit. So the gap between each of them is going to be exactly the same, but because we've started with thin on one side and fat on the other, when we fold it up, they are not lining up. They're going to slot in between each other, and that's the important thing you need to remember. Because when you look at this from the side, you can see that they're just slightly offset from each other, so that they will slip in between each other and not just bang into each other. Okay, and you just go all the way up till you've filled the side. So if you don't want to do it as big as this, you can cut your box down, or if you want to make it taller, obviously just extend your box, but just make sure that you alternate your, so one side has fat then thin and the other one has thin then fat, and then it's just a case of cutting yourself your little panels which get glued onto there, and that's what interlocks to all of those to create that beautiful cascade, which you can then flick through and decorate to your heart's content, and they'll just alternate when you close it up because of that offset. There you go, so that's your exploding cascade, your pop-up box, your explosion, and last but not least, your twist out. And that's that set of mini books.